All right. Well, if it starts distorting, blame Windows.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it back to 75 or 80.
Whoa. You're disappearing.
What?
Okay. Yeah, because I was lowering my microphone while talking.
Okay.
He's not fading out of existence. We still have him.
No. Okay. All right. That's good.
It's like I'm Zargothra. I think I've been recording this whole time.
Me too.
Me too.
So,
I'm going to probably restart it just so it's not so cluttered.
I'm just going to keep it.
Are you just going to keep it? Okay, I'll
Yeah,
keep
just
it too
keep
then.
it.
App volume and device preferences. Can I do this?
Recording is complicated.
Yeah.
Imagine recording like instruments and music and singers.
Mm-hmm.
How fucking complicated that would be.
Mm-hmm.
We're just a bunch of like losers talking. And it's already hard enough. Jesus.
People don't understand the stuff we go through, man.
Yeah, it's like I am so impressed at people who record music because that shit is difficult.
It is,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So should we just get going then?
Yeah. Sup, nerds? Welcome to episode 24 of Powerful, a power metal podcast. This is Stella, and I am here with my friends Kyle
Hello.
and Fernando.
Hello, everyone.
We've returned as the original episode 1 crew, but I promise you we're a little bit better than we were back then.
Yeah, Biscuit's having internet problems.
Yeah.
No Andrew today.
So today we are talking about a brief history of Italian power metal.
That's a big topic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is a really cool topic, and I was really excited to do a lot of the research for this. And we want to share our favorites from different time periods of Italian power metal and some stories about how the bands came about and like how the styles changed. It's just really cool. It's just a really cool topic that I'm really into. But before we get into that, Kyle's got some news for you.
Indeed, I do. So before we dig into lots of Italian power metal bands, we're going to talk about some news with Italian power metal bands.
Wow, what do you know?
First up is the band Wind Rose. They recently posted a teaser on the Napalm Records YouTube channel for a new, well, they say it's for a new single, saying get ready for June 6th. But I would assume it means there's an album announcement happening right after that. Wind Rose's last album was, I think, pretty well received. It was called Stone Hymn back in 2017. And they got really big because of their like To Erebor music video, which had like lots of ads on YouTube and Facebook and got sort of viral.
Yeah, it had like this cool dwarven theme, which
Dwarven metal is
really
their shtick.
Yeah.
So lots of Tolkien and dwarves and shit. But it makes for a really good like blend of power and folk metal that like all of their albums, all three of them, I guess, are really good.
This 45-second teaser actually tells me nothing. I don't know why people do this.
It's to build hype. It gets your name out there.
Thanks for being alive. It's a weird life.
Yeah, but this doesn't. I mean, I know that Wind Rose is going to release an album. Like, that's pretty much given because, you know, we can count on them. But a lot of bands do this and they don't actually release anything. So this tells me absolutely nothing.
I mean, they only did the teaser like a week before the thing, so that's not too bad.
I mean, just
rather than like
give
years.
Me the thing. I don't need this. Although the dude's like dwarven outfit is pretty cool.
Imagine the budget will just get even better on their music videos.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to it because of this 45-second teaser.
And I think they're going to be at Prague Power this year, so they'll have a new album for it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so check out be on the lookout for the new single on June 6th. This 45-second teaser is absolutely useless.
June 6th is around when this episode will be out.
Yeah, so look at the thing while we are here salty that we can't.
But after the episode ends, then you can go and check it out.
If you haven't already.
Right.
You can do it again. And then you can listen to the episode again
Why not?
Wow. Why would you want to listen to us more than you already have to?
Because we're so funny.
We're so
We're
insightful.
hilarious. Oh my God. You know who's also hilarious and insight? That's really bad. Okay,
No,
let's move on to the next news item.
No, that was good.
Yeah, that was
That was good. I like that.
Yeah, he was really fun.
Oh yeah. So our friends from North Tail,
Yeah.
they
Yes.
officially announced their debut album title and release date. So Welcome to Paradise will be out on August 2nd.
That's before
Oh,
Sabaton
shit.
Open Air.
No way.
Who would
It's
have
as if
thought?
you need more than one song to play at a music festival.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to this coming out. This was a super fun interview talking to Bill and Christian. I think they did a good job hyping us up for
Yeah,
the
hi
album
Bill,
release.
hi Christian. If you guys still listen to this, that was probably my favorite powerful podcast experience. Maybe.
On the posting of this artwork for Welcome to Paradise, which
Dude, the artwork looks crazy cool.
Yeah,
I like how it's like
just ice. It's
yeah, I
lots
thought
of
it was
ice.
just like Welcome to Paradise. Oh, it's gonna be like I don't know what to expect, but that's not what you would expect out of Paradise.
Well-
it's just like a barren, icy wasteland.
Maybe for some people that's paradise, but we're Californians. This is not
Yeah.
paradise. This is a hellscape.
So it's like it feels like a sarcastic paradise. It's like life is a paradise sometimes, but it also is a barren, icy wasteland sometimes. And
Maybe it's
what it
you're
is.
making your own paradise. I think that fits with their themes.
Maybe.
Yeah, that might be.
And it's got a cool eclipse in the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is great art from what is now, the traditional power metal artist, Felipe Machado. And
He does like everyone's artwork.
he does everyone's artwork that is worth listening to, basically. And the only thing that I have is that, okay, this is cool because it's not like the same that he always does, which is all surrounded in fog. This has a cool, the cool thing around it, like a window into the barren paradise.
Yeah, I like the sort of border that it gives to the artwork. Kind of keeps it focused, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With like the
definitely.
ice like coming out of it, like an overlapping with it as it's like welcoming you in.
Yeah.
I like the comments from Bill on the artwork. It says it represents an entrance to whatever paradise represents to each of us. With this album, we intend to introduce the bands to the world, as well as to spread our message that you can be or do whatever you want. It's all inside your own mind. Felipe Machado did a great job capturing our ideas and bringing them into reality. The album, the music, and the lyrics all seek to empower the listener and remind them that they are the masters of their destiny and whatever happens in their lives.
So this is obviously not a fantasy-themed album. It's very real, as we've learned from our conversation with Bill and Christian. And yeah, this is going to be a good album.
Powerful mental health.
Yeah, powerful mental health. Excited for you and the universe to hear this album, dear listener.
If I had to guess, I'm going to guess that this album is really good.
Oh my God, this album is amazing.
Yeah.
Not that I have any.
Not that we know what we're talking about, but
Not that we know what we're talking about or anything.
But I think
Okay.
people should look forward to this one.
Yeah.
yeah,
Be on the lookout for this one. This is not an album you want to miss.
definitely.
August 2nd.
August 2nd. Oh, you know what else is coming out in August?
Ooh, what else could be happening in August? A lot of things, actually.
Yeah, actually, let's go in order. Twilight Force.
to transition from North
Yeah.
Tail.
I know, it's like North Tail. And then the Twilight Force is still up and about doing stuff. And they've announced a new album called Dawn of the Dragon Star.
Yes, Dawn of the Dragon Star will be out just 2 weeks later on August 16th, 2019. This is Twilight Force's third album, and it's also the third album to feature a dragon on the cover.
Holy cow. I never would have that.
I mean, it's crazy. This will be their
Crazy.
their first album with new singer Alessandro Conti, which he's a great singer, so I'm sure this will be a great album too.
This dragon is like sitting on a treasure hoard.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
a different dragon. The other ones were like the first one was like shooting fire, and then the purple one was, I don't know, being purple.
It was being purple. That's
this
how I
one
can
is
describe
sitting on a treasure hoard.
Yeah.
They say, hear ye, silent shadows have been reigning over the lands of the Twilight Kingdoms for a while for some very special reason. Diligent dwarves, eager elves, mighty mages, other alliterative things. And the entire realm has been dutifully gathering resources over the past few months in support of Swedish adventure meddlers, I guess that's a genre now, Twilight Force, crafting their new opus, Dawn of the Dragon Star, the band's follow-up to the much-loved Heroes of Mighty Magic in 2016. Once again recorded in the group's own Twilight Forge, the album will not only present 10 new stories to their loyal Knights of Twilight's might, but also introduce companions new menacing, that's a weird word, Alion. Yeah, look at the description.
Oh, they named him.
Yeah, Alion is his new character.
Cute.
Who has been called upon by the prophecies to join the Fellowship in 2018. This features artwork by the mighty Karam Bayat, which once again brilliantly captures the adventurous and magical world of the Twilight Kingdoms. The album will be out on August 16th. And I spoke to I think it was their drummer a little bit at Prog Power last year about kind of like the style shift between their first two albums, with the first one basically just being Rhapsody and the second one being Disney metal. He said that this would be kind of a mix between the two, so maybe just kind of falling more into what their style is going to be as a band.
Cool. Looking forward to what they come up with. This is so like fantastical and ridiculous.
Yeah.
This whole episode is going to be fantastical and ridiculous.
That is true.
We've
Lots
had
of dragons.
dwarves, frozen paradises.
Yeah.
We're going to have a bunch of dragons. A little bit of jetpack.
Oh my god. I can't contain my excitement.
This is the most ridiculous episode of Powerful ever.
Oh Jesus.
Well, except for the one with the monkey knife fighting maybe, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah. Our next news item is also ridiculous.
Coming back into Italy to bring it full circle.
We never. I was going to say we never left Italy, but we
Yes,
did. We did. We left Italy several times.
Yeah, we were in Sweden. We took a detour.
Yeah, we took a. Not stylistically, but okay.
Well, going back into Italy and folk/power metal bands, Elven King have finally announced their new album. This one will be called Reader of the Runes Divination. Their last album was Secrets of the Magic Grimoire in 2017, which I kind of had mixed feelings about, because I was a big fan of their early albums and then the return to form with 2014's Pagan Manifesto. I'm interested to see where they go with Reader of the Runes Divination, this strangely named album, which they have said is the first in a 3-part concept. It'll be a trilogy of concept albums doing some big story over the next couple of albums.
Oh my gosh. I just never realized how many
more lore
people,
to get into.
Yeah, I guess I never realized how many people do trilogies of concept albums. It's like a concept world.
Because that's what makes it exciting and big and epic.
Yeah. All right. Elven King fans can have nice things, I guess. I'll just be here.
Yes, the album will be out on August 30th via AFM Records. And I want to say, okay, this artwork. Have you guys ever seen the movie from a few years ago called The Witch?
No.
Damn it. Okay. So the girl on like the album artwork, I swear they basically just like stole a shot from that movie. Because like the girl, because there's this shot at the end of the movie with like a close up of the girl with like the firelight and like the lighting, like the outfit, she looks just like the actress in the movie from this artwork here. I'm not saying it's plagiarism, but
maybe they were highly inspired by
inspired. Really good movie. Highly recommend. Creepy as shit.
Cool.
And fitting for the aesthetic of this album art with its pagan shenanigans.
There's like a shaman looking wise person thing guy.
You got runes, you got skulls, you got crows, you got books.
I love books and crows.
Runestones.
Oh, there's like a dude's face like carved in the wood on the top left.
How did you know that's how I wanted my living room to be decorated?
There's a lot of detail in this album artwork. I gotta give him that.
It's great inspiration for home decor. If you want more inspiration for home decor and to listen to our previous episodes, find us on the internet at powerful-podcast.com. And you can also find us on all our social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram at Powerful Podcast. Message us your comments and questions and memes. We love to communicate with our listeners. And if you want to support the show, you can either throw us a $1 on Patrino. You can find us on Patreon at Powerful Podcast. Or if you don't feel like contributing with money, you can also help us by writing a review or giving a rating on iTunes. That helps more people find about our show and listen to people talk about power metal, because what can be more cool than that?
Nothing, really.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing. We've like achieved peak coolness.
You don't even need to listen to power metal. You can just listen to us discussing it.
Yeah, we'll just like sum up the too long didn't read of like a couple decades of power metal right here in this episode. And we'll even provide you a convenient YouTube playlist in the show notes if you would like to listen along.
Touching on our social medias real quick. One of my coworkers follows our social media. He doesn't listen to metal, or I don't think he even listens to the podcast, but he says that our Instagram inspires him. So
really,
take that for what it will.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
I'm guessing he liked the album of the month post with all the pictures.
We need to do that again.
Yeah. A lot of the album artwork that we share is really cool. So
especially when we hand draw it in paint.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Especially on paint. And there's a nice picture of when we went to get soup dumplings. There's a nice picture of a big ass metal fan. Our Instagram is very inspiring. Aside from that, should we get into the main topic?
Yes, let's talk about Italy.
Yeah. But before we get into that even, I just wanted to share a story about how we even got the inspiration to do this episode. So Darko is in a Spanish power metal group on Facebook, and you know how these groups always have a best power metal bands like elimination tournament?
Yeah.
So apparently, Darko found out that Skylark was like a contender for, I don't know, they were like, I don't know, how was it again?
It was a whole tournament bracket in one of these closed groups. It's a Spanish-speaking group, so there's people from a lot of countries. And Skylark was there in the first lineup. And just the fact that he was there against other 7 bands to be battling up to the best power metal band was a bit odd for us.
Like Skylark, Rhapsody, Stratovarius.
Yeah, he was
Halloween.
up there with the great ones.
With the big boys.
With the big boys.
And we're like, is this a joke?
We were confused because our experience, or the way that we know Skylark, is not a great angle for them.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, and that piqued our interest, and we started digging up, like, why? Because there were a couple very strong fans, but there seemed to be fewer people. It wasn't like a widespread thing, but enough people commented on having the first albums by Skylark and how important they are and how good they are, whatever. And it's something that we wanted to look into because it didn't add up.
So there's
for
real
us.
Skylark fans in the universe right now at this moment.
Because for example, when I learned about Skylark was because of a certain video that was shared to me in our chat, in the power metal chats that we are in. And
yes, it's the video for Dying Inside, correct?
Dying Inside. I mean, So tell us about this video.
So this video was published in 2012-ish or something like that. And it's a music video for a pretty horrible power metal song. And the bulk of the video is their singer at the time, Chiara Letitia, just dancing around what looks to be the Arizona desert while scantily clad. And it's really, really strange.
Yeah.
And it just seems like she
It's like, this is the best power metal band.
She can't sing that well.
She's not a good singer.
She's not the most powerful vocalist.
Not powerful.
Put it that way. Not powerful. But apparently people in that group unironically liked Skylark, and we wanted to figure out why.
Get to the bottom of that mystery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, what's with Skylark? I don't get it. Okay. So I actually did a little bit of digging, and not really digging. I was like really curious. So I started listening to Skylark's discography.
All of it goes way back, further than I expected.
I learned that they were around for a really long time. Skylark was around, I think it was actually before Rhapsody.
It was before Rhapsody.
Yeah, it was before Rhapsody, and we'll get into this later when we actually go through, the brief history of Italian power metal. But they were founded in 1994, and they released their full length in 95, which is when Rhapsody just released their first demo as Rhapsody, So they released a full length before Rhapsody did.
Mm-hmm.
And their first their first album, I don't know. I don't want to talk about this now because we'll get into it later, but let's just say it was a bit rough.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But
put it lightly.
Being self-production before the 2000s is way different from now.
Yeah, for sure. And but what I also found curious about Skylark was that they have a website which looks like it was made in the 90s with GeoCities or Angelfire. There was just a bunch of pictures everywhere. And they had all these claims that they're number one in Japanese charts and that they're the most heavily touring Italian heavy metal band in the United States and Japan and China.
It's a big talk for a band
it's really big talk.
Us Americans I don't think I've ever seen anything about them.
In a positive light. Yeah. If you look on their Facebook page, which we will link in the show notes if you want to take a look, they toured and are still touring Japan a whole bunch. So they're apparently really big in Japan. So if there's any Japanese fans out there who want to comment, have you seen a Skylark show? Is it good?
What's their deal?
Yeah. So I don't know. They're the perception of Skylark in our US power metal community and what they say about themselves on their website and their social media. There's a huge disconnect. And I don't get it. I can't figure it out.
The longest pan-China tour in history for a rock band and the first Western band playing in Harbin, Kunming, Guangzhou, and Changchun.
That's amazing. Is that real?
That's what their website says.
Okay. If we have any Chinese power metal fans listening to this, let us know if you've been at a Skylark show. Yeah, and also another weird thing that we found while reading up on Skylark was that there was a live recording in 2008 in Arizona. And it's called Divine Gates Part 4, The Live Gate. So Skylark has a series of albums called Divine Gates Parts 1, 2, and 3, which they actually improved a lot since they're...
they were mentioned as one of the best by the people that I found that liked Skylark.
That's really wild. Okay, so I watched this whole thing, which is 24 minutes and 27 seconds long. And it just had the oddest, atmosphere of this live
the editing is quite clever if you pay close attention.
Yeah, it's so odd. It just seems like the audience is pasted on to the live performance. They don't seem to be actually there.
There are no shots of the band and the crowd in the same shot. It's completely separate, as if they just filmed the band recording in just an empty warehouse with lights and then put stock crowd footage next to it.
Yeah, and I think in some of the crowd footage, you can see them wearing wristbands, which is, I don't know, which might be a festival crowd. I'm not sure if they're at the level where they can attract a festival audience in the United States.
Conspiracy
so
theory.
That just made me a little suspicious. And also the lighting between the band shots and the crowd shot was inconsistent. So, I mean, there's no way to tell for sure, but it looks like this Divine Gates Part 4, the live gate, is not a real live performance.
They're just pulling everyone's legs, man.
I'm so confused. Like, the more I read about Skylark, the more confused I get.
You know, Gates Part 4 gates, the live gate. I mean,
oh God.
What? And you're the one doing all this research. Can we really trust you? You're in on it.
Am I a secret Skylark spy, like sent out to tell the audience about them?
Are you just like a PR rep for this Kiara girl?
Shit, I've been swindled.
We've been swindled.
Yeah, we've been swindled by this. They've infiltrated the Spanish power metal group even.
They've infiltrated Powerful.
Yeah, and then they've infiltrated this podcast. Oh my God, we're so screwed. Okay. All right, take it as you may. Skylark is pretty shady, but
So we should back up. So
yeah, let's back up. So as a result of this little mini investigation on Skylark, we just started to dig into, like, were they really the first Italian power metal band? Where did Italian power metal come from? So we started to do research on Italian power metal in general.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start back in the 80s.
Back when music was real.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm not going to start in like the dawn of time and like the Renaissance, because we know that like Italy has a rich musical history. But
in the beginning, there was Fabio.
There was Fabio.
We get to Fabio.
Believe it or not, there was a time before Fabio.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the land before time.
Just slightly though. So we're gonna start in 1982. So what I did was I went to Metal Archives and I plugged in power metal and Italy as filters, and I looked for bands earlier than 1985. I just wanted to see what was out there, to see if, like, you know, we saw any familiar names or anything stood out. So what I thought was really cool was there's this band called Crying Steel. 1982, they released a demo, and they had this track called Thundergods. And you guys listened to it, right? It was like...
Yeah, it was in the whole playlist.
Yeah, so it's the first song in the little playlist. So it's like really crunchy guitar tone. Vocalist likes to do the like Rob Halford falsetto thing, and the sound is kind of like a faster Iron Maiden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of thought of like faster new wave of British heavy metal kind of feel.
Could
to
it be the beginnings of power metal
in the mid 80s in Italy?
in
or
1982 in 1982 Italy.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like
like Kai Hansen wasn't even born yet. Like, that's how early this is.
I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah. He was probably very born.
He was probably born.
But,
well, since Halloween's like EP was out in what, 84? Yeah, he was definitely.
Yeah. He was.
Just ruined my joke. God damn it.
I ruined your joke with logic and reason.
Facts win.
And chronology.
Facts. Oh man, fuck.
Yeah, you just got faxed. And here's another cool one. Gunfire is the band. Hard Steel is the song.
That's
and
amazing.
They released this EP in 1984 called the Gunfire EP. And this has a dramatic keyboard intro.
Yeah.
And then the speed metal kind of drums. And it was like lots of guitar solos and soaring vocals and like a kick-ass chorus. This sounds like power metal to me.
This song already sounds like more like, because the previous one you will hear that it's more like, okay, this is heavy metal. This is clearly from this time, but it has the high pitched vocals and everything. And this one gets to do that, the use of guitar, of rhythm guitar, in a more melodic way. So you have a counterpoint of guitar melodies against the vocals on the chorus and on the verses, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But this is like a Dio kind of thing, but it sounds more modern that it should.
Yeah, it sounds
year.
like way more modern. This is like Manila Road, like Omen style stuff.
Yeah, and the intro
Really
with like the
cool.
big dramatic keyboard section from Gunfire was like not what I was expecting at all from something from
Right?
that time period.
Yeah, so this is early power metal from Italy, Crying Steel and Gunfire. So, what I've noticed in general that the Italian power metal was like very, riff heavy, but they also seem to emphasize like chorus melody a lot more and vocal melodies. And the vocalists are sort of like they don't use as much grit as, let's say, the German bands at around the same time. They have a lot more grit.
More of that falsetto.
Yeah. Like compare this to, I don't know, the stuff from Germany, like Angel Dust and Halloween at around the same time period, like 1985, Walls of Jericho Halloween. Like, this is a lot more, melodic. Yeah. End of sentence.
It's melodic, yeah.
Melodic, yeah. And I've decided to end my sentence there.
All right, so moving on, I guess, from the mid-ish 80s with Gunfire.
Yeah, with Crying Steel and Gunfire. Actually, like, I'm wondering what happened to these guys. I think Crying Steel tried to make a comeback in the 2000s, but I haven't listened to that, so it might be something to look into. Anyway, back to Italian power metal in the 80s. So as I started to advance over the years, I started to see names that were more familiar. So the ones that stood out were Domine, which was founded in 1983, and White Skull, which was not so long after in 88. They were founded in 88.
White Skull's been around that long. Wow.
I know. I'm so surprised because
they're still kicking.
Yeah, they're still kicking, and I mostly knew them for their their concept albums, Public Glory, Secret Agony, and Tales from the North, which was like in the 2000s. And I was like, oh my God, these guys have been making music since the year I was born. Jesus. They old. Anyway, so Domine, they were active starting in 1984, and their first full length was in 97, but before that, they had released 4 demos in the years between like 1986.
They were around for a
97.
decade before their first album?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
wow.
crazy. Yeah, they released 4 demos and they achieved like some kind of notoriety in the underground heavy metal scene. So, back in the ancient times before internet, people found out about new music through zines.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this
zines.
Yeah. And for those of you not in the know, zines are self-published magazines, short for fanzines, and they're pretty commonly associated with punk and hardcore subculture. And their heavy metal zines got pretty popular in the 80s, and they were like the best way to find out about the coolest new thing in heavy metal, because we don't have like YouTube and Bandcamp and
This was basically powerful in the 80s.
Yeah.
This is powerful of the 80s. And I'm gonna put this in the show notes, but like exploring the depths of Google, I found people who like took pictures of these Italian heavy metal zines of the 80s, and I can't read anything because I don't know Italian, but it looks really cool. There's like interviews and reviews and like band pictures and band logos, and these are self-published, so they're made with like article clippings.
I was gonna say made
like
with love.
Typewriter, and like you can see the tape on the edges of the pictures, and they're made with a copy machine, so everything's all like distorted. But it's really cool. So this is like, the underground, communicating with each other, because yeah, that's what you do.
The underground communication channels hiding from the man.
And this is something related that you mentioned earlier when we were talking about news, that who would have thought, of course, a band needs to release an album before going to a festival like Northdale. But back in the 80s, you could be 10 years without releasing an action album, just playing live, because people knew
Like
about
Domine.
you when you went to a festival or somewhere where a bar where bands were playing, and you listened to the new bands there. So you first heard them live, and maybe then if they got the money, they could release a recording. So it was the other way around.
Yeah, because recording is hard.
It was harder then.
As we're experiencing
Yeah. And it was way harder then.
right now.
Way harder.
Yeah. So I just thought that was really cool. If you know Italian, or if you don't and you want to take a look at some old pictures, I'll put that link of the zine scans I found in the show notes. And there's a lot of like familiar bands in there too. But anyway, talking about the music. So their first full-length Champion Eternal was in 1997. And I thought their sound was actually quite like new wave of British heavy metal or USPM sounding.
Yeah.
Very driven. Vocalist is generally like in the mid-range, but he does these like shrieking yowls sometimes.
Their songs were a lot faster than like I think your old school traditional metal too.
Yeah.
It did
Yeah,
seem more
so-
like that early PM sound.
Like
For sure.
the song that we included in the playlist, which is Lords of War.
What did I put there?
I call that song, to me, that's already power metal. That's not proto power or anything or heavy metal.
No,
That's
it's definitely
power
power
metal
metal.
song.
This is like, you can put this along with like Hellstar and Omen and it would make sense.
hmm
Did I put Midnight Meat Train in there?
You put in the playlist.
Yeah.
Was that
Okay.
on the same demo?
Midnight Meat Train was on Champion Eternal. And it
Mm.
was on a demo as well. And I just put it there because I thought the name was funny. I was like, what the hell does this mean?
hmm
So
Yeah.
Midnight Meat Train is based on a horror film.
Oh.
So the horror film was in 2008, which is the future. But it was a short story in 1984 with the same name.
Mm.
And it's about like, there's like apparently a subway system and there's somebody who's like killing people in the subway system and they would hang their corpses on meat hooks.
So metal.
Yeah. And I don't want to spoil it in case anyone wants to watch it, but like there's like a twist ending.
Oh.
Ooh. Oof.
Oh.
Ooh.
Should I spoil it?
Nah.
Nah.
Okay, I won't spoil it. Yeah, but that's what it's about. It's really cool.
It's a good song.
I
Yeah.
like the song. It's a bit like more fresher than everything else on the
Yeah.
list, and it gives
Mhm.
me the early X Japan vibes, which is like a heavy metal with that is fast and it has some sort of out of control punky vibe to it as
Yeah,
well.
there's definitely a sense of urgency.
That's speed metal.
Mhm.
hmm Very speed metal inspired. Yeah, and these guys were definitely not a one-trick pony. The last track on this album, the Eternal Champion, is 12 minutes long. It's like a progressive power epic. These guys just seem way ahead of their time.
Yeah, like whenever I've listened to Domine,
This is
they've been
1997.
like really great.
Yeah.
And how does that tie in with our other friends in Skylark and Rhapsody? The big ones.
Okay. So this is 97. All of this stuff that we're going to discuss is going to be around the same year because I'm just like absolutely fascinated by this 90s period. So the other band that I want to talk about before Skylark, I know we're all like really into Skylark, is it's White Skull. So yeah, as we said before, I did not realize that they've been around since 1988. And that the vocalist Federica De Boni was a founding member of the band. And she was credited in the first album as Sister.
Yeah,
Just
the
Sister?
Sister. Yeah.
that's her nickname.
Has it been the same vocalist for 30 years?
No,
No.
they changed,
She
Okay.
left. Yeah.
but she's back.
She's back.
Came back. Oh, okay, cool. Well, how about that?
Yeah. So back in, she was a founding member. So they had demos in 91 and 94 that were called White Skull and Save the Planet, which is cool. Imagine like people trying to save the planet in 1994. And now in 2019, shit has definitely hit the fan.
You didn't give a fuck back then.
Yeah. And maybe we need to start thinking how to save the planet now. But anyway, White Skull released their first full length in 1995 under the Italian label Underground Symphony, which was the label for a lot of these like early Italian power metal bands. And according to their bio, they played in pubs, local festivals, and biker meetings.
Biker meetings. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So listening to this album, I think it's an interesting album. I got more like heavy metal vibes from this.
I liked the like weird spoken intro on the track I Won't Burn Alone with like a demonic voice thing.
Yeah.
It kind of gave me those Rhapsody spoken interlude vibes that we got later.
Yeah, like we are like, oh yeah, Rhapsody has all the interludes and the characters presented and whatever, and then the other more modern symphonic bands, and this is like what years? This song 1995.
This is
95.
95.
And that's way earlier. So this was already a thing.
Yeah, and like this album throws you for quite a ride because there's like an epic power metal hymn, and then a bunch of it sounds like traditional heavy metal, and it's very riff driven, and I think it's like it feels heavier and slower than Domine.
Yeah,
I could agree with that.
Yeah. So this is really cool to hear how White Skull has changed their style, especially compared to their like releases in the 2000s, which are very much power metal.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I want to point out from this early album by them is that they use organ sounds as pads beneath the music. It's not like an instrument, but it just makes the songs feel bigger.
Yeah.
And this is something that we'll see a lot. And if you follow the playlist, you'll see a lot of this, how keyboards grow bigger and bigger.
Oh, yes. Oh, keyboards. All right. That transitions nicely into the next band that we're going to talk about. Skylark. We're back on Skylark. So we're kind of transcending through space and time. And now here we're in 1994. Skylark was founded in 1994 by keyboard player and composer Eddie Antonini. And his goal was to combine classical, pop music, prog rock, and heavy metal.
And what do you think? Do you guys hear something familiar in that mix?
Interesting. So they were started by the keyboardists.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were started by a keyboardist.
So it makes sense. Like,
yes,
if you
it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Antonini and Roberto Brodo Potenti on bass are like the lead. I guess they're the most consistent members of this band. Everybody like keeps changing. Their first vocalist was a guy named Fabio Dozzo.
Another Fabio.
Dozzo. Is it Dozzo or Dozzo?
Dozzo.
It's two.
Dozzo.
Dozzo. Two
like
Z's.
pizza.
Yeah. Pizza Dozzo. Fabio Dozzo. Yeah, great. And they didn't release any demos, I think. They released their first full length in 1995. Called Horizon and the Storm, which I actually could not find on the internet or YouTube for the life of me.
Yeah, I've been trying to as well. I can find their next one after the Storm.
Yeah. Dragon's Secrets is pretty accessible, but I couldn't find the other
probably
one.
Because the Horizon and the Storm was a self-production, so it didn't have any label attached.
Ooh, okay. That makes sense.
And the other ones, from the second one onwards, they always have one or two labels, depending on the country. And usually...
Okay. So it was actually published.
Yeah, probably the Horizon and the Storm is really hard to find, even in Italy.
Oh, I bet those Skylark super fans in the Spanish power metal group have it, though.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
If this is the same Skylark, they also have a newer album called The Storm and the Horizon from 2015.
That's the newest. That's the newer one. Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, they're really into themed albums. So Dragon's Secrets was their earliest like album I could find that I listened to. So first impressions, it sounds a little rough to me. The instruments kind of sound out of sync, and their singer sounds like a bad Roberto Tiranti. He goes up to a squeaky falsetto a lot. What did you guys think of Dragon's Secrets, if you've heard it?
I thought it was rough.
Yeah.
Like, you listen to it, and if you're used to any power metal band from the 2000s onwards, it sounds a bit bad.
Yeah.
And the vocal performance is not great, and some performances are not great. But the compositions are really interesting. I was pleasantly surprised about that. Many songs were really interesting to follow. And if you listen to it with this point of view already, thinking, okay, so this came on this particular year really early on, before the big ones we know, before Rhapsody, before Labyrinth. And you can tell, okay, so here are the ideas. So this guy really, really made an effort to integrate classical music and heavy metal and all that stuff using synthesized orchestral instruments. So he used synths to emulate strings and brass and other instruments with a really not a great result sound-wise, because, well, it wasn't as easy to do that in that time. But it's really interesting composition-wise, even though the performance and the final polish of the product is not great.
Yeah, I think this was like an early iteration of what we now take for granted as symphonic power metal.
Yeah.
There's harpsichord, there's like flute, there's keyboards and piano, there's like a very rich orchestral sound. And I want to give a shout out to this vocalist, actually, because he covers a range of different vocal styles. Like he has a very, emotional, like gentle whispered tone. And then he does the usual like rock and metal singing. And he also does a bunch of like falsetto. There's like dragons and a high fantasy theme. And if you've just listened to like Domine and White Skull and like Gunfire, like this is different.
It's a big departure for sure with how much the keyboards are there, all the different roles they fulfill, whether it's leading the melodies while the guitars are just kind of going by in the background, or if it is a guitar focused like solo and you still have like the keyboard dueling with it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge departure than Domine and White Skull.
This sounds typical as hell nowadays, but at the time, this was novel.
Yeah.
95, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But they weren't the only ones doing this style of music. Meanwhile, in 1993, there was a bloke named Luca, a dude, a human named Luca Turilli, and he decided to create a musical project. And his goal was to blend classical music with metal. Sound familiar?
Hey, that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah, he recruited his friends Alex Staropoli, thank you, and Daniel Carbonera, and formed Thundercross.
Ooh, Thundercross.
And they cited their main influences as Manowar and Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah,
Manowar went for the ridiculousness.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
I'm not sure how. Like, I don't know. A lot of people know about Rhapsody having issues with the label they were on, which is the label of the Manowar dude.
Yeah.
And
I
don't know. I feel like maybe the Inspired by Manowar came after the fact, like an added thing. Like I don't see it past the Manowar people saying, "No, you want to be on a label, you have to cite us as a
retroactively inspired by."
Wow, that's a possibility. I don't remember the story about their issues with.
We'll talk about that in another episode.
Yeah,
so that we don't go on a tangent.
For sure. Yeah. Rhapsody had other conflicts in the future, which we'll get into. Yeah, but their first demo as Thundercross was called Land of Immortals, which you may know in its later iteration. Land of Immortals also appears on their first demo as Rhapsody in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the same year.
Thundercross, yes. Thundercross, Cristiano Adaker on vocals. What did you guys listen to that old version of Land of Immortals?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So one thing is that it has the intro, which is the classical music part. And it has
like a flute.
Yeah, it has a flute, and there's a harp around the song as well. There's a couple orchestral elements, but on top of them, there are synths, like full sounding fantasy synths, not emulating other instruments, at least in this case. And this is just like, it's the first, if you're, again, I'm referring to the playlist so that you as a listener, if you listen to it, you know what I'm talking about. And it's the first one where you will hear continuous double bass drum throughout 90% of the song.
The drums were the blazing fast, like power metal double bass pedal drums that we all know and love.
What would become a staple of the genre in all countries. It's like, this is the first one that like 90% of the song, the bass drum is continuous 16th notes just hitting all the time.
Continuous 16th notes with orchestra front and center.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's how you make good metal.
Yeah.
And the swords and fantasy and dragons cranked to like 10 out of something less than 10.
And you have harmonized vocals very prominent throughout the song. They're not like crazy harmonies, but it's way more than in the previous songs. On the previous years, you might have the chorus where the vocalist is doubled and it just sounds bigger. But here you have actual harmonies going through the songs, and you have a more controlled guitar sound. You have a rhythm guitar that is not a heavy metal wall of sound, but a very controlled and very deliberate, fast picking style of rhythm guitar.
Yeah, the rhythm guitar just adds to like the richness of this like fantasy themed music.
And you have guitar leads with sweep picking, which would become another staple of the genre.
Yeah,
like the arpeggio thing.
And the keyboards are constantly doing that during the verses too, like the thing, just to, which gives it that like magical sounding quality. And then during the choruses, they go for the big like bars.
Exactly. And you have
that sounds magical.
And you have your first insight into the composing style of these guys, probably mainly of Luca, with all the tensions. And it's not like the standard harmonic landscape that you had on heavy metal, but way more rich and full of these moments that you hear da, na, na, and the drama on those chord changes.
So Land of Immortals and Skylark's first albums were both 95, correct?
Land of Immortals was 94. And then Rhapsody released another demo after their name change in 95. So after Thundercross made Land of Immortals, they made Land of Immortals in October 94. And before the end of the year, they already had their first record deal. Like, people jumped on this shit because it's amazing.
Good shit.
Yeah.
And if there had been nothing really like this before, especially in the power metal scene, like, at this point, you've got Blind Guardian has made Somewhere Far Beyond, I guess.
Meanwhile, in other countries,
you've got Theater of Pain, which is like the closest thing to it.
It's so dramatically different.
Yeah. So this
it doesn't have the ridiculous speed and richness of orchestration.
Much bigger step beyond that.
Right? Yeah. So the band name was changed to Rhapsody in 95, and they released their first demo as Rhapsody called Eternal Glory, and it had all of the tracks from Land of Immortals and 2 more. So Adakar was still on vocals here, but he left the band not long after. Fabio Leone, who left Labyrinth recently, was recruited as the new vocalist of Rhapsody. And then after that, Turilli, Staropoli, and Leone recorded and released probably the most iconic Italian power metal album, Symphony of Enchanted Lands, in 1998.
So this mid-90s period was just a watershed time.
It was like a renaissance.
Yeah, and
in its own.
You mentioned Labyrinth. So do we need to veer into that branch of the tree as well?
Don't worry, we will get into Labyrinth.
This branch of the incestuous tree.
Yeah. This is all very... Yeah, I was thinking of like, man, how are we going to present this like chronologically when everything is happening at the same time? So...
And intertwined, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Symphony of Enchanted Lands released in 1998. And let's backtrack a little bit about Labyrinth. And this might take a while because Labyrinth is pretty important. They were formed in 1991 by lead composer and guitarist Carlo Andrea Magnani, also known as Olaf Thorsen, and Fabio Tordiglione, also known as Joe Terry.
That's
as
much less Italian.
Also known
yeah.
as, like, this is the guy of the
as
many
Fabio
aliases.
Leone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fun fact about Labyrinth, they use like Englishified versions of their names for like many years. I don't know. Maybe they thought it would I think maybe they thought it would have a more better like international appeal if they didn't have their like foreign sounding Italian.
Yeah,
maybe they thought it would
definitely.
sound too weird.
Like you have to think of that time, as we mentioned.
At the time, like I don't know,
internet was not a thing.
Look at all these.
Internet was not a thing everyone used, and just everything. The international culture was dominated just by British and US culture, because that's the thing that they had the money to export.
Sure.
And maybe like when you are doing a new thing in your own country, being associated with this dominating English culture gives you an edge.
It makes you, it like you don't want to be perceived as foreign or anything. So, was it Andrea Cantarelli, who was their rhythm guitarist was Anders Rain, and their keyboard player Andrea De Paoli was Andrew McPauls. They're so funny, and their bass player Cristiano Bertocci was Chris Breeze.
These are so English.
They're so English. Yeah. So their first demo was called Midnight Resistance in 94. Fabio Leone was credited as Joe Terry, and he was the vocalist. And
can we just call him Joe from now on?
Yeah, Joe. Yeah. So this demo and like early Labyrinth is amazingly nothing like all the other Italian bands that we've just listed. There's like a bunch of syncopated rhythms, like electronic sound effects, atmospheric like whooshy keyboard sounds, an operatic lead vocalist, Fabio aka Joe Terry, and it wasn't like blazing fast, but it had a really strong and melodic lead guitar. Could it be early progressive power metal?
Well,
oh my.
Might be.
Yeah. So they signed with the record label Underground Symphony again.
That's always these guys.
Yeah, always Underground Symphony. And their first EP was in 95 called Piece of Time. And then their first full length called No Limits was in 96. And Fabio was on vocals for all of those. And my favorite song on No Limits is Mortal Sin. And I put that in the playlist.
Yeah, I've been listening to that one just now. And it's really cool, like the way the keyboards come in as just like this extra synthy or piano thing. It's not always there. It's not like the Rhapsody stuff. But it is a cool, more on the progressive side of things, like you said.
And it's in the song you can really hear that the synths or the keyboards are now a lead instrument, and they are not trying to replace a violin or replace brass section or anything. It's just, I am a dude, I have a keyboard plugged into a cool synth, and I am playing here solos alongside the lead guitarist.
Yeah, the keyboards, so the keyboards is like more like rhythmic, and the tone is shorter. It's like more staccato.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a lot of interplay with the guitar, and there's like towards the end when the chorus repeats the last time, there's suddenly like techno-y sounding synths like do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do. Like the Rude Sandstorm. And it's like hella crazy. And it just reminds me of Fabio's Eurobeat days, which we will get into later.
Oh, yeah, these are closely tied.
The legend of Fabio Leone.
The legend of Fabio Leone, who leaves the band not long after. But worry not, because Labyrinth's next release is probably what people consider their like magnum opus. Their like most influential album, a staple for any power metal collection. And this would be Return to Heaven Denied in 1998. So on vocalist now is Roberto Tiranti, also known as Rob Tyrant, because we're still
still doing that.
Englishifying. Yeah, we're still doing that. Englishifying people's names. So yeah, Roberto is known for his warm vocal tone, his like really emotional delivery, and his incredibly high falsetto. And yeah, we had the honor and glory of seeing this album performed live last year.
It was so
and
great.
You can hear,
really cool
it
album
was
to see live.
amazing. Yeah, you can hear more about their like that performance on our Raw Power episode if you want to sit through that.
What I really like about Return to Heaven Denied is just how much the album like just fucking shreds. Like the guitars and the keyboards just both are fucking nuts.
Yeah, this album is like a compositional masterpiece. It has all these like prog rock elements, like crunchy rhythm guitar and like really strong melodies in the lead guitar and vocals. And there's a ton of classic on this album. No weak tracks in sight. Even the ballad, like we bitch about ballads, even though I fucking love ballads. The ballad has this cool, like, jazzy breakdown. And there's, like, plenty of speed in tracks like Time After Time, Thunder.
Yeah.
Unconventional song structures all around, and it all in some very delicate balance.
Yeah.
This album is ridiculous, and I could go on and on about it for a very long time. If you haven't listened to Return to Heaven Denied by Labyrinth,
stop denying yourself.
What are you waiting for? Yeah, don't deny yourself. There's some good shit.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Great.
So that was Labyrinth. So meanwhile,
lots of meanwhiles.
Fun facts. Yeah, because all this stuff at the same time. But fun facts about Labyrinth's vocalists, Fabio and Tiranti, also known as Rob Tyrant. They had other names when they did Eurobeat.
And what is Eurobeat?
Yeah.
People might be wondering.
Eurobeat. Yeah, if you're wondering, Eurobeat is a style of dance music, which is kind of sounds like dance pop, and it's influenced by disco, more specifically Italo disco, which was like a thing that was cool in the 1980s in Italy.
Yeah, Italy has a very rich history with electronic music. They have the legendary Giorgio Moroder that really worked to make scenes, in his words, the sound of the future. And
I love it that they're talking about the sound of the future in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, he comes from a bit earlier than that, but that was the thing. Yeah. And by this point, Italo disco is a big thing, and Eurobeat is this high energy version of it. Yeah.
I've seen also Eurobeat labeled as a genre as high energy, high NRG, like with the letters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Eurobeat itself was popularized in Japanese and global pop culture because of this anime and manga series called Initial D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it brought it back.
And Initial D, it's a tale of a tofu delivery boy who drives a 1986 Corolla really fast down mountain roads in street races that had Eurobeat music in the background, and it's completely badass.
You should watch it. You should watch the anime, at least the first season. It's really damn good. It's
really good. I love Initial D.
It's a bit dated because it has CG from the late 90s or the early 90s. I don't remember now when it came out, but it's dated, but it's still great to watch. It has a great story.
And the soundtrack is incredible.
Amazing. Like you've never been so invested in a car race. Like it raises the stakes just hearing the music. Every racer has its own track. So when they come in, you hear their track and just gets you hyped for what's about to happen. And this music, it really gets you hyped. That's one thing that does.
Eurobeat music is like a fast tempo, and there's like a strong like 4/4 beat, like dun, dun, dun. It feels like a heartbeat but faster, And it's really upbeat, melodic, and there's a ton of synths. Like, I bet power metal fans would love it.
Yeah.
It's very similar to power metal.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason that we're talking about it. It's completely integrated, interwoven in this story, in this history of power metal in Italy.
This makes absolute sense. These Eurobeat tracks are in the playlist with all the like heavy metal, power metal stuff.
And you might not, like, you will barely notice they are there if you're not paying attention. Like, the only reason...
It's just more synths and more Fabio.
The reason they stand out is because it's completely electronic music besides the vocals. So you won't hear a lot of guitars. You will hear guitars in some songs, but it's not like
guitars.
But it's not like the main instrument, and it's
there's always like a guitar solo section in Eurobeat tracks.
If you listen to the 2 songs on the playlist, which are Into the Daylight and Dancing in My Dream.
Into the Day. Yeah. So in Eurobeat land, Roberto Tiranti is called Powerful T. And Fabio Leone is called J-Storm.
And if you ever encounter
very cool names,
songs by them, now you know.
Now you know.
Eurobeat and power metal are best friends.
Yeah. I made this connection like a million years ago when I was like a loser child who played Initial D version 3 in the arcades like every day after school. And I was like, oh my God, I love this song by Powerful T. It was one of the songs on the tracks. Was it Sushisaka Outbound? Fuck was that? Fall in the web of desire. And then I realized, like, oh my God, this is the same guy as Labyrinth. Jesus Christ. I can't handle this. Okay, anyway.
Is that where we actually got the name for the podcast?
Powerful
T.
Yeah, because we're like all Eurobeat fans and stuff.
And let's talk a bit about his song on the playlist, like the song by Powerful T by Roberto Tiranti.
Sure.
If you listen to it, it's actually...
Yeah, this is my favorite.
It's actually really similar to Labyrinth stuff in the harmonic layout and the song structure.
Even the intro, like the little...
Yeah, like
it's Labyrinth, but with an unstrum instead of a
exactly. So
whatever
you remove the drums that go fast with the 16th notes on the kicks and sometimes and everything, and you just put a straight 4 on the floor electronic drum kit. So and you have an Eurobeat masterpiece. That's the one.
Powerful T.
Yeah, and the chorus kicks ass here.
Oh
too.
yeah, definitely. And that's part of the high energy that Eurobeat gives you comes from those high vocals that are they just get you going.
Just like in power metal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other one by J-Storm by Fabio. And you can see that one is more similar to Rhapsody in the way that the song structure goes and the harmonic palette used. So Tyrant's or Tiranti's or Powerful T's stuff is a bit more straightforward, harmonically speaking, while Fabio's one is a bit more varied and it changes some keys. You have modulations around.
That's so wild.
Yeah. And you can hear, like, if you're paying attention, you can notice, oh, yeah, this is Fabio's song. This is a Rhapsody-ish song. And this is a Labyrinth-ish song. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool how that carries over into their Eurobeat projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, I don't know what years these Eurobeat tracks were, but I just wanted to show off.
Leone's first Eurobeat song, "Eye of the Tiger," was released in Japan in 2000. So
later.
This was.
He published 13 Eurobeat songs listed below under this name between 2000 and 2005. So all of his J-Storm stuff was early 2000s.
Yeah, so this was like after, he's started working on Rhapsody.
Yeah, Rhapsody's well underway
Rhapsody's
here.
Had a big influence on maybe his composition and the Eurobeat stuff. Cool. Yeah, basically, 1998 was stacked. A bunch of people did Eurobeat, and Labyrinth and Rhapsody were not the only Italian power metal acts that gained popularity in 1998. Because at this point, like, power metal in Italy is like very strong and growing.
Yeah, with Labyrinth, Rhapsody, Skylark, all of these bands like releasing in like mid 90s. By the time you hit late 90s with 98, it's become pretty big.
Yeah, some other like names that maybe grew in popularity that you guys might enjoy are Drakkar, Quest for Glory, which is kind of very chuggy. I don't know. I don't really like it. It's for fans of mid-tempo chug and Sabaton, but with worse vocal melodies. And there's also Heimdall, which is more like straightforward, like power metal or whatever. And there's also Athena, who also had Fabio on lead vocals in 1998. So Fabio was a busy man.
How did he have time to do all these albums? What is this guy doing?
I don't know.
Recording albums.
He just doesn't sleep.
He was on
recording albums.
He
That's
was
what
with
he's
like
doing.
4 different bands in like 2 years.
Yes. And this isn't even the end of his career. This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. His conquest of the entire power metal scene.
Right? Yeah, I'm like impressed that Fabio was never in Secret Sphere, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're another like one of the most well-regarded Italian power metal bands. Yeah, Secret Sphere released concept album A Time Never Come in 1998, which is one of my favorites. I have both versions of it. And the track that I share on the playlist is Legend, which is a hell of a prog power banger.
Yeah.
I love this song.
It's a really great song.
I've been sleeping on Secret Sphere, but I definitely need to give him a shot because like I listened to Legend for the first time just a couple hours ago, and this was amazing.
Yeah, I've been trying to get you guys into Secret Sphere for like 1,000 years, and I'm glad you finally listened to it.
So
Yeah.
I win.
you win.
It's really great that in this song you can hear how we arrived at the more modern sound. So
yeah,
if you listen to the other albums that we've been mentioning so far, you will probably, if you're used to listening to modern bands from the past 10 years, it's like, oh, this sounds old. Like it has that older sound, but Secret Sphere is the one in the playlist that you will say, oh, we are in the more current times now. And it has that.
We're in the 21st century. No, we're not in the 21st
not
century
yet.
yet.
Not
But
yet,
we're
but
approaching the 21st century.
We're approaching, but we're at the
point.
time where, and this is a thing that you can tell listening to the Secret Sphere song and the Drakkar song, that it's the moment when guitar sound change and you can do now those low chugs, chug, 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 which wasn't a thing before really because guitars just didn't sound like that. It wasn't something that was done, that was recorded. And with recording technology getting a bit better and making songs that have more low end, which was the move at this time in general in popular music, you can really hear that being by Secret Sphere. They really integrated into their parade structure, song structure. So you have moments with just we have an orchestra, then we have acoustic guitar sections, we have different textures, and we have sections that are just the guitar are just going chuck chuck chuck, just sounding heavy and big.
Yeah, this track Legend just has so many different sections to this song. Like yeah, we've got like acoustic guitars, we've got like a piano solo. There's like the vocalist where he's like really emotional and gentle, and then there's like the blazing fast power metal chorus.
We have very different emotions.
It kind of reminded me of Seventh Wonder, but like from 10 years earlier.
Well, yeah, because it goes through different emotions in the same piece.
Yeah.
And one thing that's interesting about Secret Sphere is that it explores some music besides what we've heard from Rhapsody and from Labyrinth and from Skylark and everything.
Yeah.
It uses a lot of the classical elements and a lot of what by this time is already power metal, but also brings stuff from other places, from other avenues of music.
Yeah, I think at this point, power metal is pretty well established.
Yeah.
For like what it is. You got these crazy guitars. You're throwing in the keyboards. You're throwing in the crazy vocals.
You throw in a Fabio.
Add a Fabio, optional, because Secret Sphere
is it optional?
Never had Fabio in it. Maybe. Yeah. So that was 1988. Clearly, like ridiculously stacked. What's next? basically a bunch of Rhapsody offshoots and Labyrinth inspired projects, which may or may not include Fabio. That's what.
Yeah, where does Vision Divine come into all of this? Because they're basically Labyrinth.
Yeah, basically. So Labyrinth's lead composer and lead guitarist, Olaf Thorsen, had another progressive power metal project called Vision Divine, in which Fabio was the initial vocalist. Vision Divine released their first self-titled album in 1999. And it sounds like a more, it's quite different from Labyrinth, I think. It sounds like a more like power metal version of Labyrinth, which is like really a weird description.
And Labyrinth's already pretty power metal.
I know it's pretty power metal. But Vision Divine, I think, has a more like prog rock influence and less of the like whooshy atmospheric synths. And it's very rhythm guitar driven.
Yeah, it's clearly a guitarist composing. Like it's a guitar player exploring music, as opposed to the other ones that were like, okay, I'm writing for a full orchestra and the band happens to be part of the orchestra, and the other ones are, I am writing this thing that sounds cool on synths and then I will add the band, and I am exploring music from my guitar.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool that like Fabio can adopt to this more like prog rock style, and when his his other project is like Rhapsody,
right?
And Fabio is on Vision Divine for 2 albums. He leaves. Michel Lupi joins for 3 albums of Vision Divine, and those 3 albums are like fucking incredible. Yeah, it's Stream of Consciousness, Perfect Machine, and 25th Hour. If you haven't listened to those 3, also, what are you waiting for? They're ridiculous. And they're like, early to mid 2000s. And then Lupi leaves the band and Fabio rejoins for 2 more albums. And then Fabio leaves again. And then they take on Ivan Giannini, who is the vocalist of Dirdion, who is another Italian power metal band. Meanwhile, in Secret Sphere, Michel Lupi joins in 2010.
So everyone's bouncing around everywhere.
Pretty much. When Secret Sphere's former vocalist Ramon Messina leaves. And then Tiranti does guest vocals in Secret Sphere's 2004 album Heart and Anger. And I think the track is Where the Sea Ends. So basically, the Italian male prog power metal vocalists shuffle a lot.
So you got Fabio, you got Michel Lupi, you've got Ivan, guy's last name I can't remember, from Dirty N, all just getting tossed around, juggled around with these crazy. I feel like all these bands that like Secret Sphere, Rhapsody, Skylark, Labyrinth, Vision Divine, they all feel like they come from the same scene, I guess, of this like lots of sweep picking and like the kind of neoclassical style of the crazy guitars with the shredding keyboards, and sometimes moving into the more symphonic stuff or the progressive and piano-y stuff too.
Yeah, they have definitely those characteristics in common, but it's also cool how they like actually sound very distinct.
Yeah, for sure.
And one more fun fact about Labyrinth. In 2007, Labyrinth's complete lineup published a Japan-only album as the pseudonym Amazing Maze.
Amazing.
Labyrinth. Maze. Get it? Which is a progressive power metal album. And it has this, it's actually quite good. You guys should listen to it. And it has this really cool cover of Angel Witch by Angel Witch.
Ooh, that's an amazing song.
Yeah. So basically a bunch of Labyrinth offshoots. And I'm sure like the music by Labyrinth and others have inspired a ton of other Italian and other countries' progressive power metal. And Labyrinth isn't the only one that like resulted in a bunch of offshoots. Rhapsody, one might even say, gets a bit complicated.
Yeah, Rhapsody has the most amazing timeline.
Yeah.
Right? The most like ridiculously complicated timeline. I think someone tried to make a detailed illustration.
Yeah, we posted it. We kind of
back when Rhapsody, what we call Rhapsody 5, was announced, which is to really honest Rhapsody. We published that little map.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll relink our post if you want to refresh your memory, because it's a doozy.
Mhm.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, we kind of like looked into it when Rhapsody 5 was announced, but let's go in order. So Rhapsody, which was formerly known as Thundercross, Luca Turilli had a solo project in 1999 called King of the Nordic Twilight. That's their album name. It's just called Luca Turilli.
Yeah, he just named his side project Luca Turilli
himself.
Despite, and it sounds almost exactly the same as Rhapsody. It just has Olaf Fair on vocals.
It's very Rhapsody sounding. And Rhapsody also changed their name to Rhapsody of Fire in 2006 due to a legal battle with Real Player Rhapsody, which is a peer-to-peer music server. If anyone remembers like how big file sharing was at that time,
Yeah.
or maybe like even a few years earlier, like more like 2004,
like early 2000s when like LimeWire and all that was a thing.
like Napster and LimeWire was like really big. So Rhapsody of Fire, because when you have a legal dispute, just add a fire to your name and it's okay.
It seems weird that they would lose that. I feel like they would have been around much earlier than the music thing.
Yeah, but
Maybe they had better lawyers.
Yeah, that's the thing. The thing that wins is money and lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, like they're a Italian heavy metal band. I don't know if they would like have the resources to fight against a tech company.
Right.
True.
So Luca Turilli leaves Rhapsody of Fire in 2011 and Fabio leaves the band in 2016. So who do you have left? Alex Staropoli, the keyboards and orchestration guy, becomes the main composer in Rhapsody of Fire. Meanwhile, Luca Turilli has a project called Luca Turilli's Rhapsody, not to be confused with Luca Turilli. And this iteration of Rhapsody released Ascending to Infinity in 2012 and Prometheus Symphonia Ignis Divinus in 2015.
Man, he loves his just out there titles.
Yeah, and this sounds like absolutely like layered and ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Only listen to this on the most high definition
Dolby Atmos
speakers, Dolby Atmos, surround sound.
This is way departed from where he started with Rhapsody. This is a way different sound.
This is Luca Turilli in his final form.
Yeah.
Or so we thought.
He's ascending to infinity, basically.
Yeah, or so we thought. Apparently, Rhapsody Turilli and Leone have decided they missed each other, so they decided to go on a reunion tour in 2017 and 2018 with all of the original lineup except for Alex Staropoli.
I wonder, like, why he's being like the one grump standing out. Is it like some personal thing? Are there egos?
Do you think they invited him, or do you think he refused to go?
I mean, it's a reunion tour with everyone. I feel like you got to invite him, unless he's just like impossible to work with. But I don't know.
Who knows?
I bet he declined.
Like in every
we don't know.
In every public statement, it has always been said that they split the band in good terms.
Okay.
And just because they wanted to do different music, but who knows? There's been some details around from some interviews saying stuff about the reunion tour. Maybe he was invited and declined. Maybe he wasn't invited. Maybe he said yes and then no. We don't know. We should try to get to them and ask them.
Yeah, and out of Team Powerful, Fernando was the only one who saw the Rhapsody reunion tour.
To come to the fucking States.
Because people actually tour Argentina in the heavy metal land.
Oh, that was a great show, man. Such a great show.
I'm never going to see Emerald Sword live in my life, dude.
We're probably never going to see this iteration of Rhapsody live.
Why not?
Never.
Why not?
Wait, I don't know.
Maybe they will. Maybe you will.
Yeah. So just when you think we've saw the end of Turilli and Leone in the reunion, we see an announcement that Turilli Leone Rhapsody has formed in 2019, not too long ago, which we've talked about in a previous episode. Holy cow, how many Rhapsodies are there?
I know we call it Rhapsody 5. I feel like it might be more than that, but...
Yeah, I feel like 5 is a under.
Yeah, because when we decided on the number, we excluded the solo albums.
The Luca Turilli solo project.
Yeah, so I think we counted Rhapsody. Then
Rhapsody of Fire.
Then Look at
Alex
release.
Rhapsody,
LTR.
Luke, it's really Rhapsody, and then Luke, it's really Leone Rhapsody.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Of course it makes sense. Yeah. So there's a bunch of Rhapsody offshoots, and this isn't the only legacy of Rhapsody. Like, clearly, the fact that they keep making names with this brand name, like Rhapsody has a big connotation in the power metal universe.
Everyone knows the name.
Everyone knows them, and a lot of bands are highly, highly, highly influenced by their sound. And whereas Skylark might have been first in releasing a symphonic metal full length, I think Rhapsody might have had the biggest impact.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they're the one who always gets cited as like the influence for symphonic power metal.
Poor Skylark.
They didn't have Fabio.
Yeah.
That was the kicker.
That was
that's the mistake.
Yeah, but if in reality, if you listen to the first full length official release of Rhapsody compared to the Skylark release, the difference in quality
that blew it out of the water.
Yeah, it's massive. Of course, they did it
Lucas
a bit
just
later,
better.
but they also had, like, you can hear the budget, and that makes an impact. Because Rhapsody, on their first albums, of many of their albums, to my surprise, they actually have a full orchestra and choir, actual musicians being recorded, which is massively expensive and a great, but massive undertaking, a lot of work. And it speaks to their composing ability and their performing ability that someone decided to put on the money for that. Because Skylark just used synths of the time, which weren't like the ones that right now we have orchestral samples that you can download in 20 minutes and make a whole orchestral sound in your computer without an issue. But back then, the Skylark dude, I forgot the keyboards guy name, he had to...
Eddie.
Yeah, he had...
Eddie Antonino.
Eddie had to go and find a couple synths and see which one sounded best for violin and which one sounded best for harpsichord and which one sounded best for brass, and try to work with that. And you hear it, and it's not an actual replacement. You can tell it's synths.
A bit duct taped together there, a little jury rig.
It's like, it's a great achievement. Technically, like at the time, that was hard to do. And he did it and kind of made a decent thing, but it's not anywhere near the sound that Rhapsody had in Symphony of Enchanted Lands. It's just, it's not in the same league at all.
Yeah, I think Symphony of Enchanted Lands just sounded like incredibly full and colorful.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe like Skylark's loyal fan base in Japan is more into their like pop inspired kind of, they have kind of a more bare bones sound interpretation of melodic power metal. Like there's a lot of vocal melodies, and there's that I think people might still enjoy. Because honestly, after Dragon's Secrets, the Divine Gates trilogy was not bad.
Oh yeah.
I'd have to say it's not bad at all. They've like improved a ton since Gate of Hell in 99 and Gate of Heaven in 2000.
Yeah, but they kind of missed their shot to be like the band that Lucas really kind of just slid in there.
They didn't make it at the time, so I was surprised to see that apparently in many places they were popular.
Yeah, I think their target market is Japan. Absolutely, their target market is Japan.
Yeah, they weren't like the like worldwide phenomenon that Rhapsody became, but still have like their place in history
for sure. So yeah, Skylark, respect to Skylark. So
oh man,
now we are sort
Sorry,
of.
but I just saw that Skylark has a cover of the Evangelion opening, and I had to listen to it.
There you go. Yeah, see, you've discovered their target market.
Yeah.
Did Rhapsody ever do the Evangelion intro? I don't think so.
No,
they should.
Yeah, see, they have their place in the world.
Have we learned everything there is to learn about Italy?
Maybe. So now that we're like closer to the future, 2010 to present, clearly these bands and musicians have had a ton of influence on other Italian heavy metal and power metal people. So I just wanted to share some of like my favorites from recent times. In 2016, there is a Italian power metal band called Hypersonic, and they released an album called Existentia. I don't know if you guys remember this.
Yeah, I've listened to this one quite a bit.
Yeah, and this was one of my top picks in 2016. The vocalist here is Alessia Rapisarda, and she has a gritty and powerful voice. And their single was called Eyes of the Wolf, and Misha Lupi also actually joins her in doing the vocals for this, and they actually sound really alike.
It's a really good duet. That's by far the best song on that album.
Yeah. It's an awesome track. And the songwriting of this song and the album in general is like prog powery, similar to Secret Sphere.
It's not full on power metal, I would say.
Yeah. I would say this is like a progressive metal with accompanying orchestration, very vocal driven. So yeah, Hypersonic, Existentia, check it out. And another band I'd like to highlight is Ancient Bards. So Ancient Bards have been around for, I don't know, a while.
I like a decade or so. It's been a long time.
Yeah, they've been around for a while. And they released an album called Origine in 2019, which we reviewed on this podcast. And they are basically like modern Rhapsody.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's the best way of putting it.
Modern Rhapsody, led by the vocal work of Sarah Squadrani. And they even have like sagas that span multiple concept albums, which is like a thing.
Yeah, get the deepest lore, get like the crazy orchestra stuff.
Deepest lore.
Fabio Leone guests on, I think, their third album, because of course he
of
does.
Course,
obviously.
Duh. And I think one of the best parts about Ancient Bards is that their bass work is amazing. So
Yeah, I feel like bass is always the forgotten instrument in power metal, but
not in Ancient Bards.
Especially symphonic power metal, because like who needs bass when you've got a gazillion other fun instruments to
Ancient
play
Bards
with?
needs bass. Amazing bass work. And then the third band we'd like to highlight in our modern stuff section is Frozen Crown. These guys are relatively new. Baby band. So their debut was in 2017.
18.
It was last year.
Last year.
Oh my God. Time
They're
flies.
that baby.
Yeah, they're that baby. Yeah, debut in 2018. Second album called Crowned in Frost in 2019. And these guys are basically like riffy, melodic power metal with like a touch of mellow death.
Yeah, like they're kind of different from all the other bands we've talked about because keyboards have like a very small place in their music.
Yeah, they're like a big emphasis on lead guitar.
Yeah. Like will have keyboards in there giving this like frozen, like tundra, like magical kind of feel. Like the title track of Crowned in Frost is a lot like that.
Yeah, they're really into frozen stuff.
We are back to having keyboards as pads, just filling in and just making the overall sound be bigger, larger, but the focus is vocal melodies and rhythm guitar work, riffs, and solo guitar work.
And then
I bet they are fans of Gunfire.
Fans of Gunfire.
I wonder if they are fans of Gunfire.
Yeah. And the melodeath thing is like would be the new mix.
It's like the new thing that power metal people are like trying nowadays, which is kind of cool. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But I like the melodeath influence in Frozen Crown. I think it's very fitting.
It makes them kind of unique.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of folkish Italian power metal bands that we talked about before with Windrose and Elven King.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about this in the timeline, but I think it was around so Elven King appeared at the early 2000s, around 2000 or 2001.
Yeah, folk metal kind of started like late 90s as well, I think, is when it started taking off. When Ensiferum was kind of finding their footing.
Yeah.
And you can see that's a different current, you would say.
Yeah, it's a different offshoot of Italian power metal, and it's more of like Kyle and Andrew's thing. Yeah. Not mine. You can see that this playlist was curated by me. I bet you guys would have thrown in a lot more like folksy stuff.
Well, I didn't do the research on Rhapsody and Skylark.
Yeah, I listened to like way more Skylark than
any other human.
Probably any other human in the United States. Not Japanese fans, because apparently they're really big in Japan.
So I know you call yourself the Labyrinth #2 fan. Are you Skylark #1 US fan?
I can't commit to being #1 fan of anything. I'm afraid of commitment. So
Fair enough.
I'll just be Labyrinth #2 fan forever. Yep, so that was our brief history of Italian power metal.
Brief, it was like an hour and a half.
Which is like an hour and a half, which is, I think, pretty good. Yeah.
We thought it could be longer.
It's very brief because I think that's good. I don't know if people's attention spans are that long, but we touched on a lot and we focused mostly on the key players and the key influencers of the Italian power metal sound. And the various different styles ranging from speed metal, heavy metal sound, and then the emergence of keyboards as a lead instrument, the progressive power metal sound. And I'm just amazed at how diverse the sound is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Italy crushing it.
Italy's crushing it. And there's a lot of cool modern stuff too. So if you've made it this far in our podcast, thank you for listening. Check out and listen along to our YouTube playlist, which is going to be in the show notes. And I know we didn't mention a bunch of we've skipped over a lot of bands because there's a lot. Yeah. But yeah, these are just some of our favorites. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this journey through space and time in one country.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can join us as we go through space and time and end up beyond the galactic terror vortex.
Ooh.
Oh boy, how exciting.
So we'll go from Rhapsody to Rhapsody inspired music with Gloryhammer and their new album Legends from Beyond the Galactic Terror Vortex. This is the high profile release of May.
High profile.
Hey.
I like that term.
This is Napalm Records and Chris Bowes. They love each other. They got to get all those YouTube views for the meme metal.
Is this really meme metal?
I hate that term. I hate the term, and I don't like using it.
Too.
I don't think you should apply it to this. Just call it for what it is. This is a power metal album, and that's all.
It's a power metal album. I don't know what meme metal means. It's like when someone says weeb metal. I'm like, that doesn't tell me anything. It just tells me that you are judgmental.
Yeah, you're just trying to put it you're just telling me, oh, this is something that I don't really think should be taken seriously. So why do you even comment on it then? If you like it, you like it. If it's good, it's good. It is what it is. It's power metal. So
yes,
we all listen to this album.
Let's talk about this album.
Yes, the third album from the craziness that is Gloryhammer and their mystical saga of Angus McFife. What did you guys think of this?
Oh, don't ask me. I'm the worst. I actually am surprised that I didn't hate it.
That's praise, I think.
I think it's not bad. I still don't really know what a hoots is.
Should I explain Gloryhammer lore?
Yeah, can you? I don't really know it.
All right. So, it's basically Chris Bowes taking the piss out of places in Scotland.
Okay.
all the proper nouns are just small shitty places in Scotland that he wanted to turn into a fantasy thing.
Oh,
so
that's kind of cool.
The first album, Tales from the Kingdom of Fife, is about the evil wizard Zargothrax, played by Chris Bowes, invading Dundee with his army of undead unicorns. And then the hero, Angus McFife, goes on a quest for a hammer of glory and a magical dragon. And he goes into an epic battle alongside the Knights of Krail and the barbarian from Unst. And they defeat Zargothrax and throw him into a pool of frozen ice. Excuse me, liquid ice.
What?
Yes.
Water?
Okay, I won't ask.
It's not water.
Go on.
He was frozen in liquid ice.
Okay, I'll accept it. Go on.
Then 1,000 years later, in 1992, the distant future, now the Kingdom of Fife is like a galactic empire of Fife, because of course it is.
In 1992. Okay.
In 1992.
Yeah.
So the Chaos Wizards, the disciples of Zargothrax who were lying in wait, they then free him from his frozen prison from the moon Triton by defeating the Space Knights of Krail. So Gloryhammer's whole shtick is that all of the magic is like actually advanced technology. It's kind of their excuse to blend fantasy and sci-fi tropes into space fantasy, if you will. So then Angus McFife gathers a bunch of other allies in magical astral hammer nonsense, and they have another epic battle at the end of that, including the immortal barbarian from Unst, who is inspired by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is the Hootsman. He came from Scotland across to America, was a barbarian, like Conan the Barbarian, and became the Hollywood Hootsman, like a star of movies like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh.
That's who the Hootsman is.
That makes sense.
That's what Hoots is.
He's an Arnold Schwarzenegger-inspired character in the story.
Okay. I have a visual now.
He's a barbarian who's also the king of California.
I remember that song. I didn't know what it was about, but I remember that song.
He's portrayed by their bassist in the live shows.
Oh, no. Okay.
So at the end of that battle, or at the end of that album, in the big Apocalypse 1992 song, the evil wizard Zargathrax is trying to unleash an ancient elder god demon from the 18th hell dimension. And there's a big fight. And in order to stop him, the Hootsman is also a cyborg. That's why he's immortal for 1,000 years. He detonates...
Because he's Terminator.
Because of the Terminator, exactly. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, I get it.
So he detonates his nuclear heart, and it causes a big explosion to destroy the Earth. But Zargathrax escapes into a portal into another reality, and he is pursued by Angus McFife the 13th. And that is where this album picks up.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that to me. I honestly had no idea.
Now, this album, this one, they go beyond the Galactic Terror Vortex, and they end up in like an alternate reality where Zargathrax has basically taken over as the Dark Lord. And Angus McFife is like, oh shit. So he tries to fight Zargathrax at the start, but it doesn't work. The Knights of Krail have been corrupted and turned evil. They're now the Death Knights of Krail. So Angus McFife joins up with a resistance who is led by one of the other characters from the albums named Ralathor. He used to be a hermit, and now he's a submarine commander for some reason. And he says in order to get his hammer fixed, his Gloryhammer, his Hammer of Glory, he needs to go into space and charge it with the sun from this reality. But spaceships haven't been invented yet. So he goes and gets a legendary enchanted jetpack so he can go into space and charge up his Gloryhammer. And then the resistance, known as the Hoots Force, because in this reality, Hoots is worshipped as a god. So the Hoots Force goes and they have the big epic battle with Zargathrax and the Death Knights of Krail. At the end of that, it turns out the mystical Hoots in this reality, he didn't actually die when he detonated himself. The vortex morphed with the power of the explosion and turned him into the god of this reality. So Hoots goes from a barbarian to a movie star to a cyborg to a god who fights alongside Angus McFife, and they defeat Zargathrax.
Whoa.
That is the amazing story of Gloryhammer. But the tragic ending, Angus McFife, spoilers by the way, was stabbed by the knife of evil. And he's going to be turned evil unless he throws himself into a volcano and sacrifices himself.
No.
He dies a hero.
Fuck, dude.
So he dies a hero. And Hoots is a god.
R.I.P. Holy crap. So the whole time you were telling that story, I was like reading along the track list, and the track list reads exactly like the story.
Yeah. See? It makes sense. And
that's crazy.
The crazy thing is, you feel like Chris probably makes this shit up as he goes along, which he kind of does. But
maybe
a long time ago, in the distant land of 2015, when Angus McFife, the original track, was reposted yet again on our Power Metal, Chris Bowes was commenting, and he basically explained the story of this album 3.5 years in advance.
Whoa.
That's amazing.
That's
he does not make this shit up as he goes along. Like, all this seems really
His quote
calculated.
from 2015 was, "Yeah, this timeline is pretty much fucked. Next album takes place in dystopian alternate past reality. Zargathrax arrived through the space portal earlier than Angus and has mastered time travel to become evil overlord of the universe. He also rides a dinosaur with laser eyes. Angus McFife arrives and finds Ralathor, don't ask how he got there, who tells him the fate of this reality. Together, they actually, I don't think he stuck with this next part. Something about the clones of the Hootsmen. Anyway, Zargothrax has corrupted the Knights of Krail by stabbing Sir Proletius, with the Knife of Evil trademark. Eventually, the force of justice prevails. Angus attacks Zargothrax with an army of good, not undead unicorns and defeats him finally for all eternity. However, in the chaos of the struggle, Angus is stabbed with the Knife of Evil, and instead of giving in to its power, he fucking kills himself. The end. Album 4 will be called Return to the Kingdom of Fife. I've calculated by then it'll be time for the Back to the Roots album. World domination will follow.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Damn.
And at the end of this album, there's like a Morse code for awakening a Zargothrax clone.
Mm-hmm.
Say what?
So in the next album is going to be a clone of Zargothrax, and he's going to wake up the original Zargothrax back in 1022, and there's going to be two Zargothraxi, and it's going to be two wizards, two Geddons. There you go.
Two Geddons, two wizards, two keyboards. That's amazing.
So
okay,
now that all that's out of the way, let's talk about the fucking album.
Holy shit! No, thank you for the context. I am not well versed in Gloryhammer at all, so that was very helpful.
Yeah. No, Gloryhammer's got the Lori hammer, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, they've got the lore up in the hammer of glory, if you know what I mean.
So, as
which is not a
as to the actual music on this album, I was pleasantly surprised and very impressed with this. Like, Gloryhammer's, I think, first album was like the most basic bare bones power metal you could write, but they've really grown since then. And like, you can actually hear the guitars doing interesting things. Like Masters of the Galaxy feels influenced by Bal Sagoth. There's like harsher vocals trading off in the background. The orchestrations have gotten much more impressive.
Yeah, I think Masters of the Galaxy is a really cool interpretation of symphonic power metal.
Chris had said that he writes the basic chords and shit, but it's their drummer who gets super in depth and does the actual orchestrations, which I thought was interesting.
That's really cool.
One thing that popped up to me from this album is that all the orchestral parts in many moments of multiple songs have melodic lines from the previous albums to tie it all together.
Yeah, they have. I think it's like character themes, kind of.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. In these multi-album sagas,
it's not just let's play the orchestral patch and feeling the sound. It's actually very well arranged and with very cool composing decisions.
Yeah.
I like the idea of character theme songs when you're actually creating a concept album like this.
Yeah, I feel like the music is still very led by the instrument or by the orchestrations. The guitar isn't as big a focus as some people might like, but you can definitely hear them putting in more effort with the guitar. You can actually hear the bass. And this one, maybe, Hoots is now a god, so his bass guitar is audible in the Gloryhammer album.
So Hoots is the bass player in the band. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hoots is the bass player. The guitarist is Sir Proletius, the head of the Death Knights. And the drummer is Ralathor the Hermit, also submarine captain.
Okay, Hermit/submarine captain. Got it.
Hey, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, this absolutely makes sense.
My favorite song on this is Power of the Laser Dragonfire.
Same.
It is
I think that might be my favorite too. I'm like, this is straightforward. This is straight up Halloween.
It's like a Stradivarius song, I thought.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
It's
inspired.
the more basic power metal song here. It's straightforward power metal song.
I'm basic.
And there's nothing all the other songs. If you've been listening to Gloryhammer, you kind of notice when it's a Gloryhammer song. And this one is okay, let's make one straightforward power metal song for everyone and let's name it almost the same as a very known power metal song, which is Power of the Dragon Flame. Let's just call this Power of the Laser Dragon
You put laser in front of it.
Laser Dragon Flame. Let's do it.
The keyboards and the guitar melodies on that song are just fucking great, though.
Mm-hmm.
So props to them on that.
Yeah.
As much as it pains me to say, I think my second favorite song is Hoots Force. Hoots Force is the universe on fire of this album, where it's the poppy unce type song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's so fucking catchy.
I didn't like it as much. Like, it's not bad. But if I had to compare, Universe of Fire to me is a far greater song than this one.
Hoots Force also, I'm pretty sure, sounds exactly, or at least similar to several other songs that Chris Bose has made.
Yeah, I think
it's
people say
Keelhauled and Drink have been mentioned.
I don't know. I just feel like I've heard that many times.
I think those were the songs, the ones that you mentioned, Keelhauled and Drink.
It also gives me Beast in Black vibes at some points.
You know, the one that to me sounded more like Beast in Black was Masters of the Galaxy. But likes the more 80s revival song in this album.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. Like every single song on this album has like a really catchy chorus.
Yeah. And since we're talking about similarities, which one was the other one? One of these, oh man, I don't remember. But there's a song here that is like straight up Eagle Heart by Stratovarius. And I don't remember which one it is now.
Was it Battle for Eternity or maybe Land of the Unicorns? That one's really, I like that one a lot.
Land of the Unicorns, it has some like Mad Rhapsody vibes in the beginning.
Battle for Eternity. I was talking about like Battle for Eternity sounds to me like Stratovarius a lot.
I am the final.
Oh yeah, totally. Like modern Stratovarius, not like
yeah, kind of.
Not like the good Stratovarius, the modern one.
Well.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, but yeah.
What? I can't like everything.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's okay. But yeah, to me, I was listening to that and I was thinking, oh, this could be a Stratovarius song from like straight after Eagle Heart. Not that it has the same melodies
like
or
early
anything.
2000s Stradivarius.
Yeah, but it has the same vibe. It has the same instrumentation and the same, like, okay, let's go to the pre-chorus in this way to ramp up in exactly the same way as Eagle Heart and then drop into the chorus like this into the major first chord.
Yeah, basically, I think this album is a good tribute to like modern power metal.
Like 2000 and onward power metal.
2000, no, not even like 2008.
Yeah, that would be more like that. Yeah. So this is what it is. It's modern power metal, and it just sits nicely with the last decade of power metal.
Yeah, take it or leave it. Modern power metal.
With a fun story and cool artwork.
Mm-hmm.
With an interesting story that I probably will immediately forget and never understand, but I really enjoyed listening to Kyle tell
it. Could make the live shows make more sense. I was reading an interview with Chris where he says like he's hoping they can like, if they had like the actual money, which I doubt they will, but if they could make like a jetpack and like get some ropes for Thomas or
oh my god, that would be
Angus
so
to fly around on with his jetpack.
Wow.
That'd be sick.
That'd be cool showmanship.
Yeah.
And I think if like the part in the big epic song at the end, which I really like the long song in this one, Fires of Ancient Cosmic Destiny.
That was my second favorite song.
If they play that song live at like the end of their show and at the part where Hoots arrives, if they make like a whole moment out of it, I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is like a fantasy space opera.
Yeah, basically.
That's what it is.
Fantasy space opera with metal.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess my opinion of Gloryhammer might have been swayed.
Ooh, there you go.
By this album. Yeah.
That's the power of the Hoots right there.
That's the power of the dragon flame right there. I mean, the laser dragon fire.
It's totally different.
It's important for me to point out that a lot of people don't like Gloryhammer or just reject it because of how popular it is with the newer fans, and you shouldn't do that. You should listen to it without thinking about what everyone else thinks about it.
Yeah.
And then decide if you enjoy it or not, because I enjoyed all of their albums. I enjoyed their live show. We saw them at Prog Power last year. They had a lot of technical issues, but it was okay. I think the only thing that I could criticize about this album is that the vocal performance is not great. It sounds like the vocalist is exhausted throughout the album, like he was struggling to do everything. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that I have to comment negatively on it, and it doesn't really. It drags it down, but it doesn't make it unlistenable at all. You can enjoy it anyway.
Maybe they'll like tune it down a few keys live or something.
Not sure if I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if it's the range or what, but to me, his performance sounds like it could be a bit more not polished, but like he sounds tired. That's what my impression of it. It doesn't match the songs. But besides that,
like ridiculousness.
I don't know, because since I barely understand the lyrics when I first listen, I have no idea about what they're saying until Kyle explained today.
Yeah, that was great storytelling. This is the first Gloryhammer album or like songs that I listened to that I really actually didn't hate. I think they got better.
Yeah.
Like I now appreciate their like tributes to previous modern power metal bands. I appreciate their songwriting and their composition. So I think this is an album worth checking out, even if you haven't heard Gloryhammer before.
Oh yeah.
You can start
This was the longest gap in between albums for them. Maybe that extra time to let it cook.
Yeah, maybe that helped. Yeah. I would give this 3.9 unicorns out of laser dragonfires plus 2.7.
Whoa. Well, I have no idea what you think about it now.
Then.
I thought I knew what you thought about it, but now I don't.
Your head. No one will ever know.
Yeah.
What do we recommend? Who do we recommend this to? For fans of power metal?
Rhapsody.
For fans of Rhapsody? Yeah.
USPM in general.
For fans, for fans of like symphonic power metal.
And for everyone,
modern power
for everyone
metal.
that's already a fan of Gloryhammer that loved this album,
You're gonna love this.
we can recommend you other stuff.
I hope that you love this.
I think it's probably their strongest album.
Yeah, and if you really like this, and Gloryhammer is everything you know in this great vast land that is power metal, you should check out.
Listen to the Italian power metal playlist. I think you'll like that.
I think it's kind of ironic that Gloryhammer is like this very ridiculous, over the top thing, but that somehow makes them a more accessible band.
Because but that makes sense.
All the nerds who like power metal see like this D&D-ish stuff, and it's like, oh, nice, that's what I want in my music, and there you go.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. To me, power metal was always about the fun.
Yeah.
Because that's what the music has.
Exactly. And this is a fun band.
No fun allowed.
So don't be an old fart who doesn't like anything.
Like me.
This album has softened Stella's heart. It can do that for you too. Ironically, this is the album about the evil alternate reality, but oh well.
Well, yeah, this is an alternate evil reality in which I didn't hate a Gloryhammer album. So
that's the real terror vortex.
It is what it is.
And before we forget, Andrew told us to tell the audience, if you like this, check out Balsagoth.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Very good point.
Balsagoth is basically where they got the idea of Gloryhammer, because they have this big, crazy space, powery, mellow, deathy type of music.
It's Chris's muse.
His muse, exactly. Just like look up their song titles and you'll get it right away.
Yeah, their song titles are like a paragraph. Oh, Balsagoth. All right. Does that wrap up the end of our show?
Excellent. As an example, here is a song called Starfire Burning Upon the Ice-Veiled Throne of Ultima Thule. If that sounds appealing, check out Balsagoth.
Okay. That sounds amazing.
So I think that's everything I needed to say about Gloryhammer. Mm-hmm. Are you guys good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am very good.
All right.
Do we have new patrons?
Yes.
So if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. This show is made possible because of our lovely patrons, and we have a new Patreon we want to thank today.
Yes, this is thank you to Chris Metal Power. I think that might be the best name on the Patreon.
Yeah. So shout outs to Chris Metal Power and all of our like existing patrons. We love you, and what else? Stay powerful.
Stay Italian.
Stay powerful.
And stay powerful.
Stay powerful. Click.